Alrighty, I'm gonna answer questions. I'm trying to figure out this camera I forgot I had. Object permanence. My ADHD. I just was cleaning out my bookshelf there, organizing it, and I was like, oh yeah, I have this really nice camera that I haven't used in forever. Forgot it existed. This, I think I've showed it to you all before, but I think there's a way where I can make it my webcam or my desk. Like, I'm just trying to figure out how I can use this to stream to there. And the only way to do it is live. So you guys get to watch me try to figure this shit out. It's been a busy week and month, actually. Like, just awesome. So far, I've had 4 closings, which for me, a Sourced LO is pretty solid for a week. I mean, a month. Usually 3 to 4 is a good month for me. This month I should have like 7 or 8 fund, depending on if a couple end up getting pushed because of some inspection stuff. But I want to answer questions. If you have any questions about buying a home, selling, the investment journey, questions about what's going on in the world right now, my opinions on it. I'm trying to figure out this camera, this one I just literally remembered I had when I was cleaning out that thing. Oh shit, how do I get it back to where it's the other way so you can read this? It's the DJI Pocket 3 action. I'm trying to figure out how to use this as my camera for TikTok when I do lives, and making sure I get the right mic. Because this thing's microphone, this little swizzle, is pretty legit. So if you need a camera for social media content, this thing right here is compact and it has its own little gimbal and it works well. I just forgot I had it and it was in my little cabinet over there. I haven't used it in a while. I also have like a bunch of different microphones, but I don't know shite about technology that much. So I've got a Rode microphone that I use for my desktop. I don't know if you can see the shit. I also got the Yeti thing at my office. This thing has got this cool one. I bought the ones off a TikTok shop for like $10. Those are worth it. Buy it. They plug right in, super easy. That's what I'm using right now. Yeah, and it comes with 2 mics, and so you can plug it in. And if you're interviewing somebody, they can be on the same mic, and it comes in clear. They have different windscreens. It's charged. So, what am I doing? Oh, and I haven't taken my medicine today. Shit, that's another reason why I'm lost. I don't have my water. You're gonna walk with me to my house. I'm working from the house today, answering questions live. Sorry I haven't paid attention to this. I opened my electric bill and my water bill at the same time. I was shocked. You go 2 bills at once, it can be a little bit tricky. But yeah, dude, like the price for certain things have gone crazy. Look at insurance. I don't know if you guys follow the BLS, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, but you can go to their website and look up the most recent CPI, Consumer Price Index report, and literally look at everything in the cost difference year over year and see what has been going up exponentially and causing this inflation. Because it's not just a person. These companies have to report this data and it's all tracked. So it's not a mystery. But yeah, dude, everybody's bills are going up. But homeowners insurance, car insurance have been ridiculous. And that's why I want to be on here to talk, because people are getting inundated with bullcrap stuff in the mail and it's all lies. Unrelated, but all right, sorry. You're talking with somebody that's not great with technology. Hey, Coolio, let me read what you just wrote. Oh gosh, yeah. The cost of living is going up everywhere. It's insane. Like home price appreciation has been going up. I mean, it's appreciated 71 years out of, since 1942. The only time it's ever gone down was once in 1991 by 1%. And then between 2007 and 11, it went down those years because we overbuilt. But yeah, everywhere the costs are going up and up. It's insane. But, medicine. When I need to email my doctor, tell him I need another script. So you're getting me raw with no medicine. I'm going to take some. What time is it? I don't even know what time it is. Fuck it. I'm going to take my medicine so that I can focus, but wanted to answer questions about financing, life. Hey, how's it going? Opinions. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'm happy to talk about it, especially because I'm up on my medicine right now, so or about to be. So oh yeah, focus. Oh fuck. Mm-hmm. Sorry you had to hear me drink water. How are you doing? Also, were you born on a military base? Yeah, that's a great question. So I was born in Landstuhl, Germany. It's not on the base, but my dad was stationed in Germany. So I was a citizen born abroad. Oh man, the birth certificates for that is pretty sweet looking. Let me grab that. Man, I love rabbit trails, and because I'm ADHD, oh, I got a package. Let me get that before I forget. Guapa. Yes. All right, cool. My Guapa's package. Um, but yeah, I was born on a military base, March 13th, 1983, at 10:22 p.m. It's interesting, but the birth certificates look weird, and I was like, let me just show you because it's unique. I want to drop my thing. You're gonna have to go around my whole house with me. Yeah. Gotta get my thing. I'll bring it out there so it's more light because in my bedroom it's dark. Is this the real one? Yeah. Cool. So crazy. All right. This has got decent light in here. Oh, my cat's outside. Oh, he'll be fine. Okay, here we go. I'm good, man. That's cool. You make candles? All right, so let me see how I spin this around. Or it's like I got a little swizzle here. But yeah, citizen born abroad. Freaking crazy. All right, how do I set my swizzle again? Up. Boom. Let me put it on the stand so I don't have to hold it. Beat my ass. Oh, that's where you can mirror it. Pink. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, it's an interesting birth certificate. Okay, I gotta remember to file that again. Boom. What was I showing? Oh, the Pocket 3 thing. Trying to figure this out. So now you can read it. Pocket 3. I've bought a couple of these for some friends. They're freaking badass. Like, I just think whenever I find stuff that's cool, I want to share it with as many people as I can. Speaking of that, going into my laptop bag because I want to show this thing. And I know I've mentioned it before, but Remarkable 2s, get one. I don't get paid by them. They ship from overseas, but they're badass. I needed that, but I'm trying to hook this up. Okay, let me power this on. Yeah, it does melt. That's for sure. What kind of candles do you make? Is it like for worship or like veneration candles, or what type of candles do you make? And oh yeah, and also about the market, I also want to make sure people know that I'm answering questions. I'm a local licensed residential mortgage loan officer here in Texas. Love it. Been doing it about 10 years. And, you know, when I first started, I was in the operation side doing the underwriting, processing, and overseeing that. So I really mastered the guidelines, and I still read them every day, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 at night. It's part of my daily checklist. And so I have to have checklists, otherwise it'll be bad. Oh, I got to update that. Just going through my checklist to make sure I'm on target for my other stuff. Yep, there's that. Cool. Yay. My Adderall, even though I just took it, did not beat me today. Sweet. Okay. I'm good. Oh, interesting. What made you start on that adventure with the melting of candles? Do you blend the smells together? Do you have a favorite candle smell? I always like learning what got people into certain things. And also while I'm trying to figure out this dang camera on how to sync it because it gives you an chocolate melt mold. I wish I could have you. Can you DM me a picture of what one of them looks like? I'm trying to picture in my brain. I don't know much about candles or how they're made, but I have candles and I like them, but I don't know much about them. But one thing this thing does is when you're first starting a live, if anybody in the chat knows how this works, it gives you an option of which camera to use. And then they have this like gaming camera. I don't know what that is, but I'm trying to see if I can use this camera and just sync it or somehow. This is too much technology for me. There's got to be like a quick video or something. I'll figure it out later. Otherwise, I'll just give it away. I don't know. I got it because I wanted to film content, but the iPhone camera is great. These things are only like $800 or $900, and it comes with extra batteries, a microphone, this badass camera. But if I don't know how to use it, then I'm not going to spin my wheels and just waste time. I'll just figure out. I'll just use what I know how to use. All right. Anybody got any questions? One thing that's been grinding my gears lately is just watching how much our country has been absolutely bamboozled by APEC. And if you know me, I have no problem speaking up or sharing my 2 cents with it, but I'm like, God dang it. How the heck did we get so deceived? Like, I had no idea about the USS Liberty attack from Israel, where they killed a bunch of our soldiers and then shot at them in lifeboats as they're trying to be rescued. It's freaking nuts. Yes, I understand. Is there a specific way to stop the tunneling of it? Because like when you burn, obviously it's going to make it in the middle and it goes off. Yes, I have heard of MK Ultra. MK Ultra, Angels Don't Play This Harp. I read a shit ton. And so back in the day, I was like, one of my hyper focuses was that. And yeah, the MK Ultra project was something that I looked into extensively. But it was also when I was like 16 to 18 years old. And back then I used to think the government was after me and follow me in white vans. And I was not all together. I also thought if I stayed awake for more than 7 days in a row, I'd unlock some hidden key to the universe. So I wouldn't sleep and I'd stay awake without drugs or alcohol, just do it myself again, because once you pass 3 days, you start to see stuff and hear stuff and it's weird. But I was an idiot. What do you expect out of a teenager? But yeah, so I had to get away from some of that. Sorry, I'm cleaning my glasses. We're talking about the MK Ultra project and then why I studied it, but then also why I got away from it, because yeah, I used to be a little bit crazy, or a lot crazy, but thankfully therapy, emotional intelligence, and all that helps. I don't know who you are, so you're getting a no. Also, one of the things that bothers me on this app is like when people do these battles on these things, like I am not trying to get money from people. I'm here to talk, chit chat, and share information, answer questions. That's it. I don't want people to send gifts or any of that other crap. Never. Don't worry about that stuff. I'm just here to chit chat. Also to answer questions, because some people follow me because my wife, Monica, she is a voice actor and she's done like 700 shows. So she's been in almost everything. So it's been amazing. Battle my wallet with your, let's panhandle together. I'll be fine. I'm good for the rest of my life. So, but I'm not against panhandling, just for a little extra action and maybe just give it away to somebody. But yeah, this economy and this market is tough, which is a pet peeve of mine, because like, I don't know if, did you guys listen to or like kind of the announcements that came out earlier this week from the Fed? And they're talking about how they are really waiting to cut rates for job loss. And that's the only thing that's holding up their ideas of recession, is the fact that we haven't had major job losses and we keep adding jobs, right? But for me, it's like, it's when rich, super rich, elite people are making rules for regular people. They don't understand why people have 2 and 3 jobs, right? But if you can't afford to live, you got to have 2, 3 jobs and do all this extra work just to pay the bills. They're like, well, the economy must be doing good if we're adding, 400,000 jobs every quarter or every month. And it's like, no, that's a sign that we are not doing good. because most of the jobs that are being added are second and third and hospitality type jobs, which are not 40-hour-a-week stuff. And so this should not be a shocker to the Fed why we don't have a weaker jobs report. To answer your questions, you have to burn the candle. Okay, cool. Yeah. What happens after it's tunneled some? Is it okay to like trim some of the wax into the base to where it'll then level out, or what should you do with it once it is kind of tunneled a little bit? Because I've got 2 candles over there that are in that position. So that'd be good to know. This is the cheapest housing will ever be. I've shared different data points on that, and also tunnel here. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. People keep adding and adding jobs, and it's tough. But I study this stuff. I'm a residential mortgage loan officer here in Texas, and I track the markets like a hawk. And so I pay attention to when the CPI reports come out, PPI reports, PCE, when Powell speaks, when all of them speak, and that's where we are. I agree. We need to raise wages. And anybody that tells you wage pressure inflation is causing inflation, they're lying to you. Just because people make more money doesn't mean companies have to charge more money for their products. And we know that it wasn't just for an adjustment based on supply chain issues, because then they wouldn't have record profits, because profit is after you pay your expenses, which include the supply chain issues. And so it's all a bunch of crap. You pour out the melted wax in the trash. Okay, that makes sense. I know I'm in Texas, but that's where legislation and you vote, and it's a long-term plan. But unions are beating, and I wish we had more unions. But yes, Texas is a right-to-work state, and until we change the people that are in leadership, that's not going to ever get updated. Which is sad, because like the unions want to make us more money, so we don't have to have 55 jobs and better retirement, better everything. But here we are. They can be started, but there are unions in Texas, because like there's unions for everything, but you don't have to. You can't be forced to, and also your system doesn't have to hire union contractors. So yeah, Texas is such a scary place to live in right now, and that's where I like to have debates with people, or have conversation, because some people might see me and think I'm like wicked hard left, right? Which a lot of things I am, but also like certain things I can see a middle ground. But there's certain things that I don't see a middle ground on, which are like women's rights to choose. That's their right to choose. It's none of our freaking business. And if you don't want or like abortion, don't have one. Cool, done. Problem solved. So if you want to chat about that, I'm here. But I'm also here to talk about mortgages, the market. If you want to have questions about that, let's go. But I'm open to talk about anything. Sorry, these glasses are driving me nuts. I know, we go fast. I just told you that I just took my Vyvanse 2 seconds ago, so I've been running raw all day, no medicine, and so we're bound to jump topics just a little bit. Let's see, what does Josh got to say? You are blessed for that, that's for sure. New Jersey has, at least New Jersey's tough. Like, my sister was born in Trenton, New Jersey, but yeah, New Jersey's tough. Unions, I've never been in a union. I'm a mortgage loan officer. They don't really have it. I'm too ADHD to jump topics without a segue. Brace for the G's, my boy. But I'm happy to come back to the union. So if we go on a tangent, I'm fast to get back into it. So segue this is going to be a chaos. Ask me anything. I'm a mortgage loan officer. Some people follow me because, like I said, hey, isn't that an amazing small world? That's so cool. But I've lived in Greece, Germany, Texas a bunch of different times. Then I moved to Massachusetts for most of my growing up time period. In New Hampshire, I lived in Nashua for a minute, but mostly in Tyngsboro, Massachusetts. Families in Burlington, Woburn, Lowell, all over the place, but very familiar with up north. My dad was in the Air Force. That's why we traveled everywhere. But unions are a good thing, and I wish there were more unions and that they weren't stigmatized as much as they are. But Anybody who doesn't want a union, I'd wonder who they're more in favor with. I'm turning to be a phlebotomist. That's cool. If you're a phlebotomist, you're going to have to live in a house, so or apartment or something. So eventually, if you ever need or have any questions about that process, let me know, because this is the cheapest homes will ever be. And if you're renting, you're paying a mortgage, it's not your own. But congratulations, push to your no apartment. Good. Keep pushing. Get your degree. Get your whatever you need to do to be that. And you know, we need that. We need more of it for sure. But what got you into that field? Like, what made you want to be a phlebotomist? That's an interesting path. Did you have family members that were also into the medical field, or is it just something that was arbitrary? That's awesome. It can be one way or the other. It's just that, like with renting being a max payment versus owning as a minimum, it's just that if you look at buckets, right? If you don't want to, because sometimes people rent under their budget, some people buy under their budget, which I think is smart. But if your payment, like here in North Texas, average rent's $2,000, right? So buy whatever house is $2,000, rent is $2,000. The difference is going to be that you're going to have forced savings through principal balance reduction. Every time you make your payment, you're reducing your principal balance, but you're also getting appreciation. And so you're growing your net worth and equity position in two ways. So with renting, you get nothing. That's awesome. Yeah, almost done your bachelor's. Yes, homes appreciate. That's the other part that's so important that people forget. And also, there's tax benefits when you own. Yes. I Love Witch is one of my favorite movies. Like, no joke, Love Witch is so legit. I think a lot of people watch it and miss the point. Like that guy, her husband, who disappeared, he was an abusive dork, and you can clearly see that he either cheated or did something that made her not excited with him. And I just love that show, absolutely. But yeah, awesome. Be a therapist, dude. There's not enough therapists out there in the world, and I think more and more people need that, especially as people the stigma of talking about mental health is being reduced, and especially for men. I think it's important. I plan to build soon, or should I wait for them? Do not wait. Buy what you can buy now. If you can, if you're building right now, you're locking in the price with a builder, so then that helps hedge against any price increases in the future. Because right now, inventory is so low. If you look at housing formations versus housing completions. Housing formations, which is people entering the age to buy a home, which is about average 33 years, has outpaced completions, which is homes being built, since 2015 exponentially. So we are at a housing shortage, which we all know how it works in the United States, supply and demand. There's not enough supply, way too much demand, and which is good because people want to own homes, driving prices way up. This is why rates being higher right now is actually somewhat of a blessing, because if rates were lower, Jesus Christ, the prices for homes would go ridiculous. Do you know that in 2021, average appreciation across the country was 19% in 1 year? It's crazy how regular people aren't going to be able to keep up. But if you can build now, lock in the prices, and just watch the market, especially around October, November, interest rates will probably start dropping. Let's see. That's not true. I think homelessness is a major issue, and there are some vacant homes, but usually those vacant homes sometimes, depending on the area, are owned by corporations who don't care if it's vacant, because what they get to do is write that vacancy off at market rent as a to reduce their tax liability. So there are some people that will own a home who don't really care if they're getting the rent, because say if the market rent, say they could charge $1,000, but the market would get 1,400, you get more of a write-off charging the market rate, and it's wrong. I think it's so crazy and creepy, and I'm a mortgage loan officer. There needs to be reformed on how many homes a person can own, like after a certain point, or at least hedge fund and companies and big huge companies have no business in residential mortgages. So build now if the market's not going to crash, housing prices aren't going to crash. I know a lot of people thought that was going to happen because they were like, oh, 2007 through 8. You have to look at the demographics, the mortgage guidelines back then. If you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan. And on my channel, I have some data about this, but you can find it on the BLS. That's the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and look up housing formations, housing completions. But also, what's really key on that is look at the generations and the birth rates in those generational periods. So 33 years old is the average age of a person buying a home. If you look back from 2006, back 33 years from then in the 70s, there was a huge decline in birth rates. In that generation alone, 55 million people were born versus the previous generation where 66 million people were born. So right now, back in 2007 and 8, there was over 4 million homes available for 11 million less buyers than there are right now. And right now, there's only 1 million homes available. So we have 11 million more borrowers in the market with 1 million homes on the market to purchase. That is why prices are going to, we aren't building more. And you can look up the housing permits and housing completions. And that's the other part that's going to be telling on how we can project for future inventory is housing permits. And housing permits are down 16% year over year. It's scary, especially for single family residents. Currently have a house payment under 500. Yeah, the thing about it is leveraging. So depending on where your equity position in your home is, that right there, 500 is not hard to debt service depending on what the rents go in your house or in your area. So potentially what some people would do in that moment is use that as your rental property for positive cash flow, borrow a little bit against your equity position to go buy another property that maybe fits more of your needs. It's a way to kind of leverage your equity to help build your long-term generational wealth through home ownership and just having a couple of different properties going. So there's so many interesting ways. Bought it, foreclosed 10 years ago. I bet you're sitting on ridiculous equity right now because in the last 10 years, homes have appreciated about 60 to 70%. And so what the county assesses your home at is going to be completely different than what you can actually sell it at. So you're sitting on an opportunity to either have fantastic positive cash flow through treating it as a rental property, or you could use that equity, sell it, use the equity to pay off any debt you might have, use a portion to get into your next home, and then have a huge chunk that you can use to then invest in index funds or, have yourself a 6 to 12 month survival account to where now everything you make is no longer servicing debt. It goes into investments because then you have this big chunk of money that you're paying all your bills out of. And then you're just making a once a quarter line item move over to keep that account full. That's the problem. We want things that appreciate, but shelter is a human right, not an investment. That's the thing that is, I agree with you 100%. It is a human right. And I think that there should be, there's other countries that are doing this that I think is really awesome. Think about like the container homes, right? There are so many containers that are being used, thrown away, going up in junkyards, right? Imagine if we took container homes, made them really nice, and made homes out of them for unhoused people. And I have a very strong passion for that because when I was 18, I was homeless and I lived on the streets for a few months, eating out of trash cans, having to time the Dunkin' Donuts period when they would throw the donuts away so I'd have food. And so I have a very strong desire to make sure that nobody ever feels that powerlessness that I did. And so that's buy what you can comfortably afford and go. But we have to define reality the way it is, not the way we want it to be, but we can push to help make society what we want it to be. But right now, it's unfortunate. It is an investment because, again, you need a house, you're going to be paying a bill, might as well buy it and do what you can. Our healthcare system is absolutely trash and our education is trash. We need all of that and it can be addressed. We have to address that stuff. And you want to know what's even worse? Look at what we do to people on Social Security and disability income. It's disgusting. We say they can't have more than $2,000 in the bank at any time, or they lose their benefits. And that is evil to me. And they're allowed to own a home, but how do you own a home or how do you purchase a home if you can only have $2,000 in the bank, right? So I have stuff on my channel to show people how to achieve that. But you are right, but this is going to be changed by voting and we need it. And that's where and part of my work on helping to combat gentrification is these types of lives, because it pisses me off to see Nana in an area that is going to get taken advantage of by investors, buy that house for $30,000. And that I like civil disobedience, bro. I'm all about bad decisions and craziness, and also doing things in a way that actually make positive change. And this is part of it, is education too. Because they don't want us educated. They don't want us communicating and a loan officer talking to people and saying, hey, go tell your Nana, instead of getting screwed over and letting her house go to an investor for 30 grand, look at leveraging some of that equity to do the same thing that the investor is going to do and then sell it for 600,000. Well, imagine how her retirement would look if she had 500 grand sitting in the bank, and she did it in a right way 5 years or so before it was time to retire, so that if there's ever a 5-year look back period, if she needed to go into assisted living or something, they can't try to go and seize her assets or your grandpa's assets. This is so important. Yeah, this is important. There's so many opportunities for people to not get screwed over, but nobody is being told, and that's by design. But how many people on the corner of these neighborhoods have like these signs: sell your house for cash, do this for cash, quick closing? Anything that's promising you quick closing or cash is trying to take advantage of you. It's also why I get on my channel all the time and rage about these letters that come in the mail for homeowners. It's like, we'll help your property taxes, we'll do this, and it's all free. But because people are scared and they don't know, so they'll pay these companies to contest their value when it's totally free, and you don't get screwed. Oh, there are some of those signs. That is a sign that investors are trying to screw people who are vulnerable. That is so annoying to me, because those people that they're trying to target, if they would have been able to talk to somebody earlier, they would be okay. Think about how many people right now. Exactly. Poor Nana. Like, I want to the fact that Nana is trying to make it on a Social Security income most of the time, in which those are abysmal numbers, and have a home, but then get choked out because it's a blessing until it's not, and then it's a curse. And that's because, without proper planning, that's what ends up happening. And that's where I like to come in and have these conversations. You don't have to use me. Talk to a local licensed residential mortgage loan area officer in your area. I'm here in Texas, love to help or connect you with somebody. But there's plenty of great people on this app. Listen, study, follow them, and you'll know the people that are right. The ones that are trying to educate versus trying to get you to do stuff for them, like, that's going to be a good sign. Asking them certain questions. If you're out there looking, the guy that was on here thinking about building, here are some key things you want to ask the builder when you're looking at rates, because rates are tied to collateral. And right now, if you're building and it's a 6 to 12 months out, you're not going to lock a rate right now. And I wouldn't suggest it anyway. But when you're asking them about rate, ask them, what is the bond market price that this rate is attached to? And what is the coupon? And if they don't know those answers, that is a red flag, because it's on my channel. I walk you through how to look at this, and you want to go, it's right now, it's the UMBS 6% coupon, and the bond market price should be about 100.12 right now, depending. I haven't checked my updates, but yeah. Yes, people need to talk to each other and have a conversation, because that's where this app is so valuable. Dude, I've been on TikTok, I think now 3 years or 4 years. And for the first year or two, I didn't make a video. I didn't do anything. I just lurked and watched stuff and learned stuff and absorbed as much information. And finally I was like, I got to get on here, because I don't know technology. I don't know how this works, but I'm like, this is the only app I ever tried to really, truly do lives and stuff from, because I just couldn't stand it on the sidelines anymore and just let people get railroaded. And I'm like, I cannot do this. I have to speak up and share, because I've had clients that were like, oh, I'm going to wait because the media said the housing market's going to crash in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and it never did. And a house they could have bought in 2019 for $360,000, I just closed this client last year, the same neighborhood, the same everything, that house ends up selling for nearly 700 grand. And that could have been their equity position. But because the media gets paid off of engagement and clicks and rage, the house market's crashing. Boop. Then people are like, oh gosh, it's going to crash. And then next thing you know, it doesn't. And then they're sitting there not making 300,000. And that sucks. This is why it is why certain entities dislike this app, because we can share it without the filter of corporate elites who own, if you look up, there's 5 companies that own all the newspapers, all the media in the world. And so, of course, they want it to be controlled for the narrative, because they don't want us to be able to share on here things like, did you know that in 1967 on June 8th, that the Israeli army bombed one of our ships and killed our soldiers and then shot at them as they were trying to escape in life rafts, which is a war crime, and were never held accountable? They had to pay back a couple $1 million, but they just said, oops, it was a mistake. I didn't know. BlackRock, Vanguard, all of them, they are toxic. And most of the reason why they're allowed to do what they did over the last few years is because in 2017, there was some of the Dodd-Frank protections were pulled back, allowing them to invest in their own investments. So think about it. BlackRock, Vanguard, all of them own parts of Bank of America, big banks. Well, if you're getting a loan for a property that you're going to own and using money from the companies that you already own, did you actually pay any money out? If I buy a house, I got to make money. I have to pay money out of my pocket. I got to do stuff. But these companies own the banks. They own all this stuff. So then they're buying property and they own the multifamily properties around. So then if they have it vacant, they can control the rent prices because they own the multi-property. Now they own the housing market. And this is what's terrifying. By 2030, they have a plan to own 30 to 40% of residential properties. It should be illegal. But here we are. Exactly. It's monopoly money. And we were supposed to be protected from this. But because they repealed some of the Dodd-Frank protections in 2017, it opened us up for what we're experiencing now. And when you have lobbyists who have billions of dollars to spend buying our politicians, of course things are going to favor them, and it's disgusting. And I personally wish we could suggest things with our fists manually in their face once in a while, just to remind them that just because you're a politician or a rich person doesn't mean you can't be touched, but that can get me banned off of TikTok and all that other stuff. But it is what it is. By now, I'm telling you, like my house we bought in July, like I share my personal stuff all the time. I bought and sold multiple properties over the years, and it is insane. And that's they do, and anything unless it helps them hoard, and that's what they are hoarding cash. How can you spend, think about some of these people whose wealth went from 47 billion to 150, 200 billion dollars. Like, what? When you see the greatest transfer of wealth between 2021 and 2024 now, and it's the elites got way wealthier while us and the regular people lost exponentially, it's disgusting. And of course, tax avoidance. And they're like, well, people cry and want to simp for 1%. Millionaires are not 1%. Millionaire people are not the rich in the country we're talking about. We're talking about billion. There's a big difference between a billion and a million. And it's drastic. It isn't even close. So when you have $100 billion, poor is a policy choice. Homelessness is a policy choice. We could end that shit right now across the country. Think about how many malls are vacant. Imagine if we took every freaking vacant mall and turned it into small apartments for unhoused people. But inside the mall, there were community centers to help educate, to help give therapy sessions, to help people get healing. Because nobody wants to be homeless necessarily, but mental health has been a abysmal thing in our country. And of course they don't want to invest in it, because if we are intelligent, if we are mentally healthy, it is hard to take advantage of that population. But they want to continue to make us think that it's immigrants that are causing a problem at the border, and not that the fact that we have 6 or 7 people who control most of the wealth, media, and information that's dispersed in our country. And also they want to say about birthing rates, right? I want to talk a little bit here after I talk about birthing rates, because it's a twofold factor. Birthing rates, that's what they're so worried about. Social Security, it's not going to be solvent, it's going to be ruined by 2035, right? Go look and study the report. It's also not the most accurate information, but we could solve this, right? Imagine if we made it a little bit easier for people to immigrate to this country. And we say for 10 years, this is the deal. You want to immigrate here? Cool. We want you here. We need the laborers, right? So we bring them in. For 10 years, they got to pay a little bit extra Social Security tax, a little bit extra taxes to make sure that because right now it's hard to become a citizen. It's super expensive up front. Not a lot of people can afford it. But imagine if we didn't front load the cost, we put it into the taxing to help the citizens of the country that might not go back to another country. And so that is what some people are afraid of. Well, they're going to come here, work, and then go back. Okay, and how many Americans go to Thailand for medical procedures because our medical system in our country sucks ass? A lot. And so when I say this is, imagine if we made it easier for people to come into our country, however that needs to look. Make it easier. They have a 10-year period that they have to pay a certain extra tax that will help us get ahead of this problem that they're foretelling about Social Security by 2035 or 2050. Okay, well, we can fix that. How many millions and millions of people want to come into our country but can't because we're racist. It's insane. There's so many Americans going to Turkey. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I've even been tempted. I'm like, wait a minute. I can go to Thailand, get a flight, stay in a badass luxury place, go get a bunch of dental work done that would cost me 5 to 10,000 here, but over there it cost me like $1,000. So I get it all done and have the vacation and save $6,000 or $7,000 collectively. It, but that's an indictment on our medical system because it's for greed and it's for profit. When you have the heads of health insurance companies making millions of dollars a year, millions, not the like 100,000, 200, 300,000, millions of dollars a year, how can we justify a health insurance company who does nothing but just approve bills making millions and everyone underneath them are very highly paid? It's disgusting. So you see the number one reason for bankruptcy in our country is medical debt. We're supposed to be the richest, baddest ass country in the world. We can't even take care of our citizens medical. It's embarrassing. Oh, and what we did to indigenous people, we're the most savage assholes on the planet. It's disgusting. And you look at how media portrayed that entire situation and try to make them look like savages. And the more I realize this, every accusation is a confession. They are the savages. Think about like what they did to all the buffalo that was sacred to them. Just murdered it and just left them in piles as a sign. Evil. And it's the stuff that's going on right now all over the world. We are the bad people. We are in the bad place, and it's sad because I grew up in the military and on military bases and all that stuff. So I drank the Kool-Aid back when I was younger. I thought we were the best. And then all of a sudden I start traveling out of the country as an adult and seeing how things are done in other places and talking to people and of course research and watching documentaries and movies and educating and reading every book I can get my hand on this stuff. If we really wanted to truly study the Reconstruction period, we'd want to fight everybody. Oh, and police, we're the worst. We have the worst prison population, the worst policing. It is just embarrassing. There's 2 documentaries I would recommend everybody watch. 13th on Netflix, absolutely will change your whole mind about everything, and Power. Both of those, insane. But yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff that I've been dealing with. Oh, birthing rates. And so when you look at birthing rates, that's why they're trying to say that they're trying to go after abortion, because back in the day it was average 3 births per 1 birthing person. Now it's down to 1.5, and that's terrifying the power structures. They want their laborers in the system to grind up like a meat grinder and spit out at the end. And so they want this machine to keep going. They don't care about the abortion. They care about the machine. And this is how you know this. And what really is what they're going after is the privacy protections that were under Roe v. Wade. Imagine if the government wants to know our medical history, right? They want to know everything about us. And if you are truly pro-choice, the pro-choice is a choice. You don't want one, don't have one. But if someone else should be able to have an abortion if they want one, right? Because the opposite can happen. Imagine if the government was like, nope, we're going to make sure that you can only have 1 kid and you have to go through all this stuff. Because if they get rid of privacy protection, they get rid of our rights, then they are in control. They are in the right. They can tell us what we can and can't do. And that's what's disgusting. And it's also deplorable how many laws regulate a man's body. Yeah, we're over here messing with women. It's disgusting. And it's on us guys to talk about this stuff and stop playing like, it doesn't affect us. It freaking does affect us. Absolutely. Texas anti-choice or pro-choice. Texas is Naziville. We have horrible leaders. Collectively, most people are pro-choice because pro-choice is, I don't want one, don't have one. You want one, you can have it. That's a choice. But just because I don't want one doesn't mean I should make it to where you can't have one, because that's not fair, especially if it's based on some magic space daddy. And it's like, ugh. And again, if I like donuts and you don't like donuts, it would be wrong for me to say you can't have a donut because I'm on a diet. Women's issues, bodies, women. Exactly. It's none of our freaking business. It's with them and their doctor. Get out of here. But because it's about the machine and birth to be able to control, it's crazy. But it is for men to talk on. The reason why, it's not for us to say what a woman is or isn't feeling, but it is our job to talk about it with other men collectively so that we can get out and vote accordingly, so that we protect the women in our lives that we love and care about. our moms, our sisters, our nieces, nephews, our partners, our wives, all of them. And so that's why it is an important discussion. And that's why they don't want this app going, because I'm a white dude who's privileged here in Texas talking to other people about women's rights to choose whatever the choice is. And it's cool. No opinion is valid. Sorry, not going to budge me. Well, that sounds like somebody who is in a position of what's called cognitive dissonance. You don't want to start to look at that option because there's probably several things that are attached to that opinion that make you feel safe, comfortable, and stable. And so if that can shake, what else can shake? And that's the part for me that gets exciting, because I'm like, wait a minute, why do I have this hard, fast position, right? Because if your opinion on it is one where, and as a person, I've been divorced twice. I have one son and I got a vasectomy, but I've also been with people who had to have abortions. And I felt that, like, because I didn't get a right to even have my opinion on it, but it wasn't my choice. And that's what I realized even at those times. It's none of my business. Like, it's not my body developing this thing. It's not my, yeah, sure, I might have to pay child support, but it's just money. So it's wrong for a guy to not want to talk about this with other guys, because then it's the typical, well, girls just want to do this or this. No, it is not. Listen to women. Yes, we talk about it, but our education needs to come from them, and just listen and go from there. Also, anti-choice laws leads to exactly, and that's again control, manipulation, and the privacy stuff. It's all connected. Why does it matter? And every politician that usually ends up pushing for that type of propaganda and is usually a closeted freak show. And so I'm like, anybody that tries to propose these types of bills, I want their data history on their internet to be public information for everyone to surf through. Were you on Jeffrey's Island? If you were, please sit down and take several seats and go to jail, like straight to jail. I don't want to hear any excuses. And so, it's unfortunate what we've done to Americans in the LGBTQIA plus community. But what I think would be funny, I said this on the other part, is like, imagine if they put like a lowercase s to include straight people, just to like throw the people that are against it through a loop. Like, what, you're not a part of this spec. This is just people. You are on here plus s straight, like, because most people are straight, but like, how much money is it this person or that person? There's going to be compromise. And once you're allowed to be honest with that compromise, and you're like, maybe you're not exactly as straight as you think you are. But it's sad. Why are they so busy? Think about how much money has been spent on racist policies and litigating that and trying to suppress people in our country. Think about how far we would be as a country if we had it. We don't want the S on there. I want the S on there. So who's the we we're talking about? And hey, I have a question. Be honest. $1 billion cash money. Would you do it? And if you say no, how about 2 billion? And eventually there's a number in reality that you'd say yes. Does that make you on the spectrum on there a little bit? I'm just brave enough to admit and say my number might be lower than yours, but everybody's got a number. What's up, bud? How you doing? We're just discussing, because I was talking about LGBTQIA+. I was like, imagine if they did a little reverse Uno and throw a little lowercase s on the end to include straight, so that when they're making legislation, they can say, you don't want your rights protected as a straight person? Because then what's the argument? Then they're screwed. And it's hilarious. It's not straights. Actually, straight people are statistically the highest number of abusers, physically and sexual abuse. So think about the Catholic Church. Think about the churches in general. Think about the Boy Scouts. Think about the pastors we're seeing everywhere. All of those people proclaim to be straight, but they're out here finger banging booty holes and doing weird stuff to children and women and abusing, and it's nasty. And so straight people are majority of the problem, and mostly it's mediocre white dudes that are doing most of this, the killing and abusing. So that's where it is. Yes, but it's not a serial preference issue. It's an ego issue. Maybe for some. I think most of the time when an abuse cycle is activated, it is a trauma response, and it's somebody trying to obtain power from a moment that they were powerless. But that's another discussion there. I know who the abusers are. With all due respect, please don't speak on things. It's not good faith. Well, I know who abusers are too. I used to be a very toxic person who used anger and aggression to control and manipulate people. So as someone who has done the work to be a better person and heal their emotional intelligence, who also had horrible abuse growing up by straight people, I can confirm right now that straight people are the ones who used to beat the living crap out of me, and they were my parents, or my mom mostly, but and absolutely tear into me. And she did the best she could, but that was wrong. And so that's a straight person. You want to talk about lived experiences? I'm right here. Yep. So I can talk about it. But see, but that it's us sharing our personal experiences that help unify and see everybody from our own perspective so we can relate. Because you might see another person who had a somewhat different lived experience. So you're projecting what your thoughts are about that person instead of listening. And so that's the part where we can heal it. And we don't have to get activated. You probably lived through some really crazy stuff or some stuff that might not have been as crazy that someone else lived through, but it doesn't mean it didn't impact you. And I feel horrible about that. And I want to help communicate. That's why I'm on this channel, talk about toxic masculinity. Yes, there's a lot of domestic violence. My parents were horrible with each other. I watched my mom stab my dad with big ass sewing crocheting needles and hit him over the head with frying pans. My dad would take the claim like I didn't ever hit, but you were instigating and drinking and a drunk and would pee and like it was bad. And again, they did the best they could, but doesn't mean it didn't impact. And so then you're living with a bear. Our brains are only meant to process threats momentarily to get into a place where we're safe. But when you live with a bear and there's two of them and you're constantly under the threat of violence, it is devastating. And that's why I like to talk about this stuff, because some people go into a flight. I think toxic masculinity is buzzword people are. But think about this. Like when you were growing up, how many times did you get made or told by an adult male not to cry, to toughen up, to be a man, right? Not saying it's not important to be a man and be tough, but to be able to communicate emotions is so important. And so that's why I think, oh, Viola Davis, that is my queen right there. She is so gorgeous. I'm telling you, her book, um, um, Finding Me, 10 out of 10. She is amazing. She is so brilliant. One of the best actors on the planet, and her story is impactful. But I think she's queen. Like I would risk it all for that lady to this day. Um, but Viola Davis was the right choice for a man. Absolutely, dude. That show is so good. People need to watch that. It's so badass. Like, oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. I love powerful women, and so anything that's about that life, I'm in. I would have definitely gone to war, fought weird faceless things for her too. But yes, but that's where like talking about this stuff, like it's crazy, and I'm glad you're going into therapy because like and different studies because think about how much of that goes. Dude has so much wisdom, self awareness. But that's it's because I've read a ton of books, but I've also failed, and then I didn't make excuses about it. Have you seen The Scandal with Kerry Washington? Oh yes, Kerry Washington is also another gorgeous lady. Holy moly! Um, yes. What was another show I was going to mention that was really good? Both of them. Anything is with them is really good. But yes, Kerry Washington. Holy moly! Oh yes, emotional intelligence is super important. EQ. I've read probably Jesus. I read 2 to 3 books a week, and I have for the last 10, 11 years. And so How to Get Away with a Murder is one of the best shows on Netflix. People need to go watch it right now. She's so hot in that show, and I love. There's a scene where she's like taking off her makeup and taking off her hair. I think she looks phenomenal. I'm like, oh my gosh, could you imagine getting to see that every day? Like that's your partner. That her husband is blessed, but it's so good. I have not read Loving Angry Men. Um, I have not read that one, but some of the great books that I've read, What Happened to You, Oprah Winfrey's book with the doctor was fantastic. Um, uh, let's see, What Happened to You. I have book lists everywhere. What Happened to You is important. Pete, I need to make sure I charge my phone. Oh shit, what do I do? Oh well, it'll be fine. But I need to give you guys a list. I'll put it on there. I have a book list, but um, geez, EQ, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, Pounding the Stone. There's so many phenomenal, phenomenal books. Age restricted? What the crap? Somebody didn't like that I'm talking about emotional intelligence. That's interesting. It's because I had to verify my live because I guess I talked about emotional intelligence and got like a age restriction. Gift of Fear. Yes, I have that in my bookshelf right there. The Gift of Fear is so good. Blink is another good one. Um, Jesus, there's just so many fantastic books. It might have been on one of the Red Pill dudes. Yeah, some people suck and some are not. EQ is, I think EQ is more important than IQ because IQ is kind of fixed, but your EQ is something you can invest in and grow. We learn, um, it's an age restricted topic. Why? That blows my brain. But like, it's something you can invest in and grow because like we learn how to manage emotions by watching our parents. And if you have emotionally stunted parents, how do you know? Like, and so I had to read and learn all this stuff because I wasn't taught love. Like I've never heard nice words or affirming words or hugged or affection from my parents. Never, nothing, zero, nada. It was only until my mom got cancer did I ever hear her say "I love you" because I made her say it. I'm like, I don't want to hear, I don't want to go off the phone until you say it. It's crazy. Um, I know they don't want us to read books. They don't want us to talk. We don't want to talk about emotional intelligence. The stuff that they're weird about makes me suspicious. Man, I'm so sorry. I hope you hope your mom does better. One thing that was nice, I got to right now. Me and my mom are no contact because I put boundaries in place because she tried to tell me not to talk about her abuse and how she used to beat the shit out of me. I'm like, Mom, I'm not trying to make you look bad. I'm just sharing my experiences. You did the best you could. You grew up worse, but you know, it is what it is. It was a Netflix show that was age restriction. Ah, got it. Yeah, yep, that makes sense. Miller's Girl on Netflix is 10 out of 10. I recommend that show. Fantastic. I drank a bottle of wine, which I don't drink hardly ever. But for some reason I was like, let me get some of this white wine in. And I ended up getting white girl wasted and doing a review like 10 deep on Miller's Girl. Fantastic show. But as men, I think one of the things that holds some of them back is this concept of shame and not wanting to talk about failures in the past. But that concept does not compute my brain. I don't understand the concept of shame. And so I don't mind talking about my past or failures or things that happened to me or things with my past divorces. Cause like I said, I've been divorced twice. And my first wife and I are great friends now. It's my son's mom, but I was the problem in that relationship. And my second wife, Marcy, I loved her, but you know, we were younger and I was an asshole and, you know, would use anger and aggression to control and manipulate. And now she's doing her own thing, but it took me 11 years of focused dedication on identifying my trauma responses. I didn't even know what a trauma response was. I didn't realize that like the little sound would put me in a fight or flight response. My cortisol would be activated because it was reminding me of what would the sound my mom's feet would make on the floor right before she beat the shit out of me. And I'm not talking like one spank, two spank. I'm talking blank out, go nuts, belt marks all over my face and body, and I couldn't go to school for a couple days. Yeah, and my partner Monica, now we've been together, Jesus, 11 years. She's famous. She's badass. I outkick my coverage, and I love bragging about her. She is so cool. Her name's Monica Rial. She's an actor. She's been in like 700 anime. She does a lot of stuff in video games and commercial voiceover. She's the voice of Harley Quinn on the ride at Six Flags. And so like just so many cool things and like perfect relationship. We don't fight. We don't in 11 years or we've been together almost 10 years now. In that 10-year period, we've not had a fight. We've had discussions, but yeah, it's nothing. I'm an actor too. Or break. Oh gosh, no. She is a baller status. Like when I tell you she's an actor, like if you've ever seen an anime, she's in it. And she goes to conventions and makes stupid money. Like I don't have to work if I don't want to. I do it because I do it. Oh, you mean you? Well, what kind of acting do you do? I don't know if you've ever explored voice acting, but there's so much of it out there and there's so many different companies. And it's a great avenue to supplement as you're doing other types of acting too. Monica teaches about it to other people because when she went to college and all that through school, she didn't know that she knew it was a thing, but it wasn't one of her focus. She was focused on stage and on camera. And so she was doing Shakespeare and theater in Houston, and a guy named Jason Douglas, one of her really good friends, was like, you have a child voice. You should do anime. And she's like, what's that? And then she went into Sentai Films in Houston, and the rest was history. Now she's done more than anyone in the world. Or there might be one guy who might be close to her, but he's from Japan. It's not, but she's going to overtake him soon if she hasn't already. But yeah, she's awesome. And that's what another thing, it's like, it's nice to have a partner. I haven't. You should. Oh, anime, like Monica's in Dragon Ball. She's Bulma. She's been in everything. But you can do both, and that's really cool. Like for the first few years of her acting career, she was a hairstylist, but she still keeps her license up because she doesn't want to let it, just in case. But oh oh, she's badass. Like I met her, I was managing an apartment she lived at, but you can't date a resident, and I got transferred and I was helping out on a Saturday, and she messaged saying she needed to sign her lease, and I was like, this is my opportunity, baby. I'm gonna flirt as best as I could, which was like uh my game on that. I want to post pictures eventually because it was not the greatest, but it was enough to win, and I feel good about it. But I did my best, and here we are, 10 years. Next year it'll be 11 years, and super happy. But yeah, she's so cool. I fangirl. I don't know anything about anime or video games, and I've seen some stuff, but dude, she's been in everything. Oh, Linda Young is so nice. Yeah, she's a nice lady. Monica Rial. If you've ever watched anime, she's in all of the stuff. But everybody in that community is so cool, and it's such a small, tight knit community. It's so badass. Oh yes, it is so awesome. And in my whole goal with her is to love her so well that it empowers her to be 100% comfortable in her skin and strive to be the best she could ever be. Like I want her to love herself so much that not that I'm not needed but like I want to empower her, and it's so amazing. And that's the difference. Like when you love somebody, you don't want to. I want to empower her to love herself the most she's ever loved, and do the things. She's so cool. Like, and just I wish I could say more. Like right now, she's at Crunchyroll recording some stuff, but she is so cool. Like the nicest lady on the planet. And so when you see her at a convention, she's nicer in person. What mistake did you make in your first marriage that you don't do anymore? Okay, there's several. And I've been married twice before. In the first marriage, I grew up with three sisters. And so this is part of where I did not know certain things because and also my parents are older, so they're very much boomers. And so like I never had to do stuff as a kid because I had sisters. So like laundry, dishes, making my bed, like the common sense stuff I never had to do. So when me and Andrea got married, I think I was just turned 20 and she was 22. And so we didn't have any business getting married. And like one of her biggest complaints was I wouldn't clean the hair out of the sink. And for me, if somebody tells me something's an issue, I'll fix it. And so that was an easy one. But me and her should never got married. We knew each other 2 total months and got married. Toxic. But I would use she would be stuff and I would scream and yell and say stuff. And also like traffic used to be really scary. Like I've been in so many crazy fist fights. It's not even funny at this point. It's not anything to brag about. It is what it is. And so that would terrify her too. Like if somebody would piss me off on the road, I would not have a problem of getting in a fight. And they're like, oh, in Texas, they got guns. I'm like, I don't care. I die. But, but that was the toxic masculinity side where I thought anger and aggression showed me as a powerful person when it wasn't. We divorced. Thank God. We should have just been friends. Then I get with Marcy, who was amazing and fun at the time. But again, she didn't know who she was. We were finding ourselves. And I'd been in relationship at that point. Because like my high school sweetheart, then Andrea, then Marcy. It was like no in between. Oh, no, exactly. It is shame and sadness and fear. And so whenever I would get afraid, I would use it to get power back because like when my mom used to beat me as a kid, I felt powerless. And the only way I'd ever feel power is to get angry and not cry and not to show fear. And so like when somebody would come at me, activate it. And EMDR really helped free me from that because up until 2 years ago, I would get activated. Oh no, a year ago maybe. I would get activated going to every restaurant. I'd have to sit with my facing the door so I could watch the people coming in, scan for threats, cortisol just coursing through my body. And that was crazy. And so I had to do work to fix that. How many years ago did your mindset shift? It started about before I met Monica. So about 12 years ago after my second divorce. And that one really threw me because I had this thing in my brain. It was like, I did not want my legacy to be that I was this Irish kid who was angry, could fight in the drop of a hat, and I did not want that to be my legacy. And so I went to this thing, and I'm glad I met you too. It's awesome. And so like I went to this event. It was like a men's retreat, and the guy was like, "Okay, I want you to picture a cafe in your mind." He's like, "Close your eyes." So everybody did. So we close our eyes, and he's like, "Picture a cafe. Where is it?" And for me, Paris is one of my favorite places in the world. So I'm picturing Paris, right? And it's like, okay, now picture the person you love the most in the world. And this was relatively recent, but it kind of built up into this. So this was, Jesus, 9 years ago, 8 years ago. So I'd already known Monica. We've been together 2 years. So of course she's the first person that popped in my head. What would they say? And so picture them, and what do they smell like? What do they look like? So you're really building this world in your mind. And then they say they're meeting a friend for lunch or coffee, and their friend sits down and says, "What did me or what did your partner mean to you? How did they show you they loved you? Who were they?" And they had us write down what we think they would say and what we hope they would say. And if there was any delta, to start doing the work right then and there to fix it. And I thought I was winning. I thought I was doing the best job ever, but I knew that there was things I could do better. But this really hit me for my other people in my life, my son, my parents, my friends, all of them. I'm like, what if we think of them as like not sand, but like snow? When you step in snow, the footprint. What footprints am I leaving on everybody's life? Because I knew up until I started investing my emotional intelligence 10, 11 years ago, I was super fun to be with, but I could also be like psycho. And so like snap, just poop, see red, it's over. I'll wake up eventually and it'll be fine for most people, but others it'll look different. And so that was a trauma response. But I didn't want that to be me. And so diligently diving deeper, Observer's Chair is another fantastic book, but just getting all this stuff out and talking with people is important, because in those moments when I'm being real, I call it like marks on my soul. So 11 years ago, I remember it specifically. After my divorce, is your son No, Monica is my partner I've been with now for almost 10 years. My first wife, Andrea, my son is 20, or he'll turn 20 on the 31st of May. My first wife, Andrea, who's a really good friend of mine and as a realtor, and we do a lot of business together, was my first wife who I had my son with. My second wife, we didn't have any kids with each other. She's off doing her own thing, but Monica is my partner for the last 10 years. Phenomenal lady, badass. Love her to death, and would literally burn the entire world to the ground if anyone hurt her or bothered her or inconvenienced her in the slightest. And so, but going back to what I was saying, like on the thing, I just share what I've learned through books and study and all this stuff. Becoming a watcher of my thoughts and seeing. Yes, that's important. The Observer's Chair experience. Like that was an experience. Like I read this book called The Observer's Chair, right? And that was so cool. Like where you can look at yourself from a perspective and then take a physical step so your brain has a shift, and then observe those decisions or thoughts from that other, like a judge or whoever perspective you want to look at it, is so important. But back 11 years ago, I call it the dark night of my soul, which is actually what this tattoo is. It's like a dark forest, and I need to get my moon up here, but I was visiting the like St. John of the Cross book, Dark Night of the Soul. I was visiting every mark of my soul. When was the very first time I felt terrified or scared or vulnerable, and work through that and look at it from that observer chair position? Like, okay, for instance, this is what happened with me. The first time I ever felt terrified or vulnerable, I was 3, 4, 5, somewhere in that age. We're at a water park, and I remember going down the slide, and my dad was at the bottom to catch me, and he didn't, and I slid under him. And I remember looking up through the water and seeing the sun and thinking like, oh my gosh, my dad's gonna let me drown. Even though my dad wasn't, and it was only a few seconds, but in my mind, I thought it was done. And I still like would see the shining light through the water. So drowning used to be one of my absolute fears. Well, I didn't realize that was causing a trauma response moment. And so then I had to go and look at it. Obviously, my dad picked me up immediately. He didn't want me to drown. It was simple. I was a little slippery ass kid sliding down a slide. Of course it's going to be weird. And I was only under the water for a few seconds. But in that moment, my little self, that was a moment in time that my brain had to create a moment of survival. And if I never addressed it, that's going to continue a pattern throughout my life. And so that was one moment. Then the next one was like the first time I ever remember getting beat. And it was what happened was my grandmother gave me this guitar, right? And my grandma was not a nice lady. It's my mom's mom. And she was never nice to me. So this was the first time she ever gave me something. It was like 5. I was living in Carswell in our greenhouse, and I was in the room with my sister, and it didn't have strings because like the little plasticky piece to like adjust the strings were not on. And so I just had it, and I thought it was cool. And I set the guitar on the bed, and my sister Nicole, who's like 16 months younger than me, was there, and it slid and hit her. And she's like, "Mom, Ronnie hit me with the guitar." My mom comes in the room and starts beating me with this guitar all over the place. And I was terrified my mom was going to break the guitar. My dad comes in, my mom starts whacking the shit out of him with the guitar, and I'm here terrified that she's going to break the guitar. Not that I'm getting beat, but that moment really messed with me. And I had to go back as an adult in that journey of my dark night of the soul, visiting those marks on my soul, and look at that from an adult's perspective to take my power back. Yes, that was wrong. My mom was reacting to hearing her little girl thinking that I hurt her, and she whacked me with this guitar. And obviously she didn't hit me hard enough to break it. So while it was wrong, I can see that from a different perspective, validate my little fear and my pain, and then take that power back to where no longer am I that little kid who's feeling vulnerable. I'm an adult who sees it for what it is and appreciates that person. Because when you live with PTSD, like CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, it creates like little things that you had to become in order to survive. And so that also is the toxic stuff that ends up spilling out on the people that we love and care about if we don't go to therapy sooner. And that's why, as a guy, I share on my channel a lot that us men need to go to therapy sooner so that we don't spill our toxicity onto our partners. And do that first, because it's not our partner's job to save us or to rescue us. That's not their job. Our job is to set proper boundaries for ourselves and then operate within that boundary. And like, I say all this not to make any shade on my parents. My parents did the best they could. My mom had a horrible life growing up. She was given away by her parents to go live in a kid's home with all of her brothers and sisters, and they were horribly physically and sexually abused. It was bad. And so, of course, she only had a certain level of capacity to share love and affection because she didn't get that herself. So I can't hold that against her, but I can, as an adult, validate my feelings. I did not know what it's like to have a mom where you could cry with, or to ask for help, or that will tell you they loved you or give you any sweet affection. Like, that is not a concept that is in my brain. And because she didn't get it either. But I don't need her validation for that. I can give that to myself and learn and understand it. But that's where I talk about this toxic masculinity. We don't think about how many people have ever talked to you or talked to anybody about their failures in a way that isn't condemning anybody else, but taking accountability and continue to go on. It's intense. Yep, it's tough. Your dad was very was man, I'm so sorry that you experienced that and that he experienced that. And sometimes they won't. Like right now, I'm on a no contact with my mom because I put a boundary in place because she tried to tell me I couldn't talk about the abuse on here. And I'm like, okay, I'm talking about my lived experience. You don't like it, you shouldn't have done it. I'm not bashing you, I'm just sharing. And I was like, until you apologize, you are not in this area of my life. And she still hasn't apologized. That's okay. It's on her. I'm happy either way. So sometimes we don't get that resolution. So you might have to get through that and work through that to understand that maybe their capacity isn't where yours is. And that's something that I had to look at for my mom. Is I can't expect her to react and respond the way I have because I've invested a long time in my emotional intelligence and she hasn't. She grew up in a different time period. He's a fun person, but he's not perfect. Yeah, think about this. What's interesting in an experience with them about, I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, have you ever considered that I am not just your son? I'm a man who has a son who has a dad. Have you ever thought of me like as that versus your son? And he's like, nope. But think about it, like our dads are men who have a dad who have lived experiences we might not know anything about. And think about the stuff that they went through, especially in that generation. Golly, learning. And that's some of the questions and stuff I talked with my parents about was what was it like growing up? What was your biggest fear? What was the most exciting moment? What did you want to be? And getting to know them more as a person also helps reduce some of the things that, like my reactions to them, because I see them for more of who they are instead of who I hoped or wanted them to be. and it's helped heal some of our relationship. But I also put boundaries in place so that if they cross them, it doesn't affect me, because it's like, hey, here's where the boundary is. You know where it is. Cool. It's your choice. But he's a good father. Yeah, that's fair. That's a pretty much everybody in this country is dealing with some craziness, and I wish that you had, or things can get better. Do you guys still have a conversation? Is he still around? Do you still have an opportunity to talk? Yep, I know how that goes. My dad is OCD and my mom is ADHD psycho. Okay, you live with both of them. And sometimes that could be hard too, because when you're in a different power dynamic, it's hard to kind of establish certain boundaries. But coming at it, just learning it, be like, parents, I want to get to know you. I want to understand, what was it like? What was your childhood like? Tell me. I want to write this stuff down. And because I want your legacy to go on. They might not have ever even thought about some of these concepts, but you can be in a sense, a person that can help them, and ask them, be like, hey, do you guys want to know my most terrifying moment? What it was like for me to go to school? And just share. It's a fun thing. I did that with my mom when she was in the hospital last time, where she was in the ICU for 3 weeks. I just got to really learn a lot about her childhood, and it was important. But in all of these things, that's why it's like, as a mortgage loan officer, I like talking about personal stuff, because we do business with people we know, like, and trust, and to know that we all are going through stuff, and it's scary and it's terrifying, and buying homes in the top 5 most stressful things a person does. And so everybody I'm talking to has a life experience like what you're talking about, or a different one. How did you go about remembering stuff from such a young age? With certain memories, it's like, it's stored in the body. So trauma is stored in the body a lot of times. And that's why the book's like, What Happened to You? Gosh, why is that title just leaving my brain right now? The Body Keeps the Score. You really got to go back. Your brain will remember the trauma response moments. And how you can really dig into that is to pay attention to your body. Like, track your pulse. If I ask you, like, what was the most scared moment in your life, and you start to talk about it, that one will come up. But if you feel your pulse, it'll start to increase. You'll start to see your face flush, because our brains don't have a concept of time, in a sense, like perceived threats. So if you start talking about your most fearful moment in your life, your brain is designed in a way to help prevent you from that. So that's, yes, listen to your body more, because your body will tell you when something is a trauma response. And it starts because we process our thoughts from the bottom up. So like our reptilian brain, up until our like cerebral cortex and into the tops of our brains that are more highly evolved, where where we have metacognition. We're like the only beings that have that ability to think about our thoughts. And so your wife is right. Listen to your body and think. Like me, I didn't realize that little footsteps, or like cabinets opening and closing a little bit aggressively, is not my partner being upset with me or anything in general. It's me having a trauma response to what it used to sound like before I was about to get abused. And so if I didn't pay attention to my body, I wouldn't even know that I'm getting into an activated state. When you're looking at state management, and as you're moving along that path into a more terror state, your functioning IQ goes down, you're activated, your logic goes down. So a lot of times when people are under pressure, they're in a fear state and asked and demanded for quick responses, they can't, and they freeze. It's insane. I personally don't like that book, but that makes sense. Which book is that you don't like? Body Keeps the Score, or What Happened to You? But yeah, I'm interested to know, because like certain things, there's some parts in certain books I'm like, Body Keeps the Score. Yeah, I can see where some parts of it, and I don't know much about the author. I just read the book, so I didn't do much research into the author themselves. But I'm not surprised. A Boy Called It is another fantastic book. But in essence, from my own lived experience, some of the stuff that I learned from the book is where it is. So I wonder, with me always being on offensive. Yes, I promise you. This is why this is such a great conversation. I need to try to get my phone on the charger so it doesn't die. My microphone's going to switch because I got to put my phone on the charger. All right, let me change this around. Shitballs. All right, we got power. All right, we're back. So so yes, she could simply state something and I could take it like she's coming for me. Yes, that's a trauma response. Listen to your body. But what I would say is, when was the first time, and something you can do on your own, when was the first time you ever felt that? And start to go back and allow yourself to just kind of feel it. But this is what's terrifying. I thought that was being a Pisces. Yeah, I'm a Pisces. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Aries, Venus, and all that stuff, but a Scorpio rising. But going back to what you're saying, Josh, go back to the first time you ever felt that feeling. When was it? What was going on? But the scary part is your body is going to feel like you're in that moment again. So validate that concern and fear, and just know that you're going to need some space to process these emotions, because you are going to be in an activated state. Because like I said earlier, your body doesn't know that the threat's not in front of you. And so when you're going through this, start to feel it, because it's not your wife's responsibility to heal your mama trauma. But it's also doesn't need to be something that you're a victim to anymore, because you're an adult. So I used to get very much triggered hearing little teeny tiny footsteps in the kitchen, or cabinets opening and closing. Or also, like around 3:30, all of my siblings had the same experience. Oh shit, dad's gonna be home, because that's what our mom would do. Like, we got to get the house clean. My dad's OCD, used to do military inspections. If your room wasn't perfect, he'd throw everything in the middle and do the white glove. It was psycho. So to this day, most of us have these trauma responses around 3:30. We're like, oh gosh, is the house clean? What's going on? And got to fix it. But that's something that we can address, so our partners and the people in our lives are not victims to our own victimization as a kid. So go back to your earliest moments of ever feeling that way and start to work through it. And I promise it'll go away. Another thing that's really good is EMDR, and also even just, what's it called? It's like 8D audio. It's like stimulation. Freaking A. Can't remember. My ADHD is running. Trying to being in or near water. Yes, I like taking long baths to like reconnect and chill. I used to hate baths, but now I love it. Or I'll go in my pool when it's summer. 8D audio, yes. And that's the thing. When you go on, it's bilateral stimulation, because it forces your brain to and almost rewire itself in a sense. And like when you do EMDR, you can tap on either side of yourself to help reactivate certain parts of your brain. Bro, trust me, go listen to some of that audio, but it can also activate and start to tap into it, some of your trauma responses. So just be cognizant. And that's the part, when you are in full control of your body, it is empowering, because now a person coming at you is not going to be a perceived threat. You can process it that, they're in this state, this is what they're going through, and I can see them now as, okay, you're just a 7-year-old in a 47-year-old man's body who got afraid because I had to get over, and now you're responding like a 7-year-old. So you're not a threat to me, you're a threat to yourself. And now you can move on. And that's the part where it's going to be empowering. But this is why this conversation is so good, because just a little bit of work. Imagine creating such an environment where your wife feels so freaking safe that they can become whoever they were meant to become if they had never experienced trauma. But they can't do that if you're not in a place where you're everything you could have become if you didn't experience trauma. It's such an amazing thing that we have the opportunity to communicate, because we got time. If we're breathing, we got time to fix whatever we've messed up. We just can't be worried more about the end result of what we fix than the journey. This, for me, is a lifelong journey of constant improvement. It's a concept called Kaizen. And so that is what's so important. Kaizen is like the dedication to constant improvement. It's so badass. I'm so glad I got on that you came across too, because I'm just a normal dude here in Dallas, Texas, who messed up, did the work to be better, doesn't make any excuses, and want to share and give people that liberation too, because it's scary. Growing up, told you can't cry, you can't do this, or you're blah, 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 all of the toxic stuff, because their parents were told the same thing. But imagine if we were ever encouraged to share our emotion, because that's where anger comes in, and we're defensive because we don't want to be seen as vulnerable or weak, because we were told at one point that if you are vulnerable and weak, you're not a man. But that's not true. We can be honest with that emotion. Right now, I'm afraid because my power is slipping, and the reason why that makes me afraid is I'm afraid of what you're going to do if I relinquish this level of control. Imagine we can communicate that instead of telling someone to go F themselves. It's a lot more, and that's the other part. It's a lot more empowering and
in my opinion, masculine to be honest with an emotion in that time. Hyper honesty is so empowering. Lying only happens when fear is involved. And that is the truth. If you're not afraid of what the consequences are, you won't lie. And think about any time you've ever lied, it's because of fear. So if you fuck up, yeah, I did that. I'm sorry. Here's the ways I'm going to fix it. It's game changer. And so that's what's so important. Of course you did, because probably as a kid, you had to learn how to be deceptive in order to be safe. But now we're no longer kids. We're no longer getting spanked or punished. We're adults. So now we can get out of that fear state and move more into a controlled, organized communication state where we're communicating and not emoting and trauma dumping onto people with our trauma responses that they're unaware of. They weren't there when we were kids. And that's what's so cool about all this. But it's a journey, and it's going to be ups and downs and ebbs and flows. That's why you have to be dedicated for the long haul. It's the journey, it's not the destination. I just want to continue to be better and better every day, not from a position of lack, but a position of love for myself. And that's where all of this comes full circle. If you fall deeper and deeper in love with yourself, it's easier to create boundaries in place to protect your love for yourself. And then out of that love, you're able to give to everyone around you. But if you don't love yourself, you will never properly love the people in your life. You'll either try to control them, manipulate them, or keep them in place because they somehow make you feel better. And that's not fair to them. And so that's where I want to be on this channel sharing, because mortgage is important. Life is important. But there's more to this world than just money. We're going to die. Everyone is. One of my watches that I love, it has the remember you will die on it, on the hands. Because if we remember that every day, every interaction, we'll live a lot more peaceful or be more honest. And I think that's beautiful. And it's important. And think about how many people on this chat have shared stuff, shared books, shared AT audio, even had difference of opinions, but no toxicity. Nobody getting mad and angry and being rude to each other. That's what we should be doing as a collective, and I love it. And so my partner just got here, and she's my favorite person in the world, so I'm out of here. Bye.